And then moving right into Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Geoff Neal. I mean, this was fight of the night. This was the 50 grand fight of the night. Dana White said so. I say so. Everybody we were watching at the house with said, yeah, no doubt about it. Geoff Neal, yes, he missed weight, and almost never do you get a bonus if you miss weight. Dana White said, F that. Geoff Neal's getting his bonus. I don't care how much overweight he was. That was a fight for the ages. I think a couple takeaways. Shavkat Rakhmonov has a chin like you wouldn't believe. He's got a heart and willingness to win like you wouldn't believe. He can pull a submission out of his ass to win a fight. I mean, that was just pure willpower and determination. On the flip side of that, I think we have to be fair and a little bit critical. Shavkat Rakhmonov needs to work a little bit on his head movement. He was standing right in front of Geoff Neal taking big shots, a few more of those, and he may have found himself on the wrong side of a TKO loss. So I think if Shavkat, he's now called out Colby Covington, he wants that title fight, and I think he's a future champion for sure. But if I'm going to give one point of criticism, if I can criticize the guy that's 17-0 with all finishes, it would be that he needs to move that head a little more, get it off the center line, because you won't have a long career standing right in the center and taking shots down the pipe.
Yeah, and he might be able to survive a few more fights like that, but it's an accumulation. If you continue to get hit by big power punchers and people who know how to strike really well, fight after fight after fight, by the time you fight 3 or 4 or 5 more times in the UFC, you might get a little bit chinny. You might start getting dropped by these shots. And, Geoff Neal hits real hard. And, I gave Geoff a big hug yesterday before we all headed off to the airport. And I was like, man, great performance. I know you didn't get your hand raised, but thank you for that one. That was like a fight for the ages. And he was just like, man, glad you enjoyed it. It was one of those things. I'm glad that he did get the $50K bonus. I understand that the weight cutting portion is a bit of a blemish on the record, but that doesn't really matter, man. He came in there to fight. I know how hard he was trying to pull the weight out this time, and it was a tough battle before the real battle. And Shavkat Rakhmonov is a tough card to draw, but Geoff Neal's not in this to try to take easy fights. He wants to test himself against the best, and I think that performance, even though he didn't get his hand raised, proved to us that Geoff Neal can absolutely hang with everybody in the welterweight division, even the future champion, the likely future champion, Shavkat. And, man, Shavkat all week just looked like a man on the mission. Like I said, him and his entire team, they all kind of have this same stoic, just vibe about them. And they walk everywhere with a purpose, and they aren't really there to play games or joke around or anything like that.
Did you say they walk in a single file line
behind
they do. Shavkat?
Yeah, they all kind of stick right behind him. And Shavkat's big too. I don't know if he looks
big.
Yeah.
I've never seen him in person, but he looks big on TV.
Very, very big. I would have guessed probably 6'2".
Wow.
Very tall, and just leaned out and looked really good. All week, I was assuming he was probably going to get his hand raised, but Geoff is just such a good guy, very friendly and just does it all right. So I was hoping Geoff Neal would have a great performance, but I knew Shavkat was going to be hard to deal with, and that bulldog stand-up choke was about as brutal as it gets. Shavkat's one of those dudes that can finish the fight anywhere, on the ground with submissions, on the feet with striking, and apparently on the feet with submissions now. So I guess since when you're 8-8 with knockouts and submissions, and you need to figure out, obviously one of these two is going to get lopsided. So what's the best thing I can do? I can choke him out on the feet and sort of even it back out until I get my next fight and do a knockout. But Shavkat's the real deal. I think he does need to move his head a little bit more, but who am I to criticize or critique anybody like that? I mean, he's literally a perfect fighter as of right now. And Colby Covington's a good matchup for him. Colby's a great fighter, will help Shavkat get to that next level, that star level that he's trying to get to. But Colby doesn't hit quite as hard as Geoff Neal. He doesn't quite have the power. He has great power, and he has stamina for days. He's got great wrestling and stuff like that, but he's not going to hit quite as hard. So I think Shavkat would be able to go the distance with Colby, and with that sort of striking that he's got, plus the ground game that he's able to use, I think he'd be trouble for Colby. And I think